The wind howled across the cracked asphalt of East Ridge, carrying with it the sharp sting of winter. Snow clung stubbornly to rooftops, sidewalks, and streetlights, turning the small town into a frozen tableau of white and gray. Inside her modest two-bedroom home, Monica Harris, a single mother with worn hands and a heart bigger than her paycheck, stirred a pot of stew. Her 7-year-old daughter, Tia, huddled near the heater, pulling her blanket tightly around her small frame. Monica glanced out the window and saw a blur of leather and chrome fighting against the gusting wind, a line of bikers, teeth chattering, bodies shaking from the cold, seeking shelter. 25 of them. Men hardened by miles of road, life's punches, and scars both visible and invisible, standing in the snow like lost wolves. They were strangers, strangers in need. Monica hesitated for only a moment. She knew the risk. Letting in a gang of strangers could mean trouble, damage, or worse. But something in her chest, a stubborn mix of empathy, courage, and defiance, spurred her to action. She flung the door open. "Come in. Quickly. Get out of the cold," she shouted, her voice carrying over the roar of the wind. One by one, they stumbled inside, shedding snow-drenched jackets and gloves, faces streaked with frostbite and exhaustion. The living room filled with the smell of wet leather, gas, and cigarettes, mingling with the warmth of her tiny home. Rico, the largest of the group, stepped forward, shaking his head with awe and relief. "Lady, you don't know what you just did," he said, teeth chattering slightly, trying to manage a grin despite the cold. Monica just waved him off. "I know what it's like to be cold and scared," she said simply. "Everyone, find a seat. Get warm." The bikers spilled onto her threadbare couches, chairs, and even the floor, rubbing hands together and muttering thanks under their breath. Tia peeked out from behind her mother's legs, eyes wide at the sight of these hulking men sprawled across their living room. Monica crouched beside her, whispering, "Don't be scared, baby. They're just tired." Hours passed. Stew simmered, hot chocolate was poured, blankets were distributed, and a strange camaraderie began to form. The bikers shared stories in low, gravelly voices, about frozen roads, broken bikes, and lives spent chasing freedom. Monica listened quietly, her heart swelling at their vulnerability. They were massive, intimidating men, but in her home, they were just cold, tired, human. As night fell, the storm outside intensified. The wind howled like a living thing, and Monica could hear the snow piling against the windows. She looked around at the group of men huddled in her living room and realized something extraordinary. For one night, her small house had become a sanctuary, a lifeline in the middle of a merciless winter. But she didn't know that what she had done tonight, a simple act of kindness, was about to change her life forever. By dawn, her home would be at the center of a storm far bigger than snow and cold. And when Tia woke up the next morning, she would see a sight that neither mother nor daughter could have imagined. 1,500 Hell's Angels, engines roaring, filling the street outside her door, a show of gratitude, respect, and power unlike anything she had ever witnessed. The first light of morning filtered weakly through frosted windows, casting a pale glow on Monica's living room. She rubbed her eyes and yawned, unaware of the spectacle waiting outside. Tia stirred beside her, tugging the blanket tighter around her small shoulders. The aroma of leftover stew and warm blankets filled the air, offering a sense of comfort after a long, exhausting night. Then came the unmistakable rumble. At first, Monica thought it was thunder, or perhaps another storm brewing, but as the sound grew louder, sharper, she pressed her forehead to the window and gasped. The street outside wasn't just lined with motorcycles. It was flooded. Hundreds, no, more than 1,000, all Hell's Angels in their iconic leather vests, chrome glinting under the weak morning sun, engines idling in a low, menacing hum that shook the very ground. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "Oh my God," she whispered, pulling Tia close. What are they doing here?" Tia's eyes were wide, small hands gripping her mother's sweater. "Mama, are they angry?" Monica shook her head, though uncertainty gnawed at her. She had welcomed 25 freezing bikers into her home the night before. That was dangerous enough. But this This was something else entirely. She flung the front door open a crack, peeking outside, and was met with a wall of motorcycles stretching as far as her eyes could see. Dozens of men, all rugged, tattooed, and imposing, stared back at her, but not with hostility. With respect. With gratitude. With awe. Rico, one of the 25 she had helped, dismounted first, striding confidently up the walkway. He didn't smile, didn't laugh, just nodded once toward her. "Monica Harris," he said, voice carrying over the rumble of engines. "You saved our lives last night. We don't forget." The magnitude of what she had done hit her. In one small act, offering warmth, food, and shelter to men who had nothing but the cold against them, she had earned the respect of an entire brotherhood. One by one, men stepped off their bikes, forming lines that led from the street to her door. They moved with discipline, unity, and a silent understanding that Monica was now part of something larger than herself. Tia peeked nervously around her mother's legs. "Mama, there's so many," she whispered. Monica knelt beside her, taking a deep breath. "I know, baby. But they're not here to hurt us. They're here to say thank you. That's all." The bikers began to distribute blankets, food, and coffee for themselves, murmuring thanks among each other. Monica watched, astonished, as the crowd outside grew in size, the roar of engines slowly subsiding into a powerful, respectful hum. Men who had spent years on the road, men hardened by life's harshest lessons, had come together to honor a simple act of kindness. Rico approached her again, his presence commanding yet calm. "Monica, you don't understand what you did for us. That storm last night, the cold, it could have broken us. But you reminded us that there's still good in the world. That someone cares." Monica swallowed hard, feeling tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She never imagined that helping 25 men survive one freezing night could lead to this, a display of loyalty, brotherhood, and respect so massive it shook her tiny street to its foundation. She glanced down at Tia, who had gone silent, her small hand finding Monica's. "Mama, can we go outside?" Monica nodded slowly, heart pounding with a mixture of fear and awe. Stepping onto the porch, she felt the cold bite at her cheeks, but it was nothing compared to the warmth rising in her chest. Before her stretched a sea of bikers, engines quiet, eyes locked respectfully on her, waiting to show gratitude in the only way they knew how: presence, numbers, and unspoken honor. Monica stepped fully onto the porch, Tia clutching her side, and felt the weight of the moment settle around her. The street was no longer just a quiet lane in a sleepy town. It was a gathering of strength, loyalty, and respect, thousands of chrome and leather figures stretching into the distance. She had always thought of bikers as outsiders, dangerous, unpredictable, maybe even reckless. But now she saw something entirely different: unity, brotherhood, and a code of honor that ran deeper than most people could imagine. Rico approached, the faint morning sun glinting off the edge of his leather vest. "We're a family," he said simply, voice steady and unyielding. "Some of us have families back home, some don't. But the one thing we all understand? Loyalty. And you earned ours last night." He gestured to the crowd behind him. Hundreds of men nodded, a silent echo of respect. Monica could feel their eyes on her, but not threatening, watchful, protective, reverent. Jax, a tall man with arms tattooed in swirling designs, stepped forward holding 2 steaming cups of coffee. "You fed us. You sheltered us. You didn't ask for anything, and you didn't turn us away. That doesn't happen often. You made us feel human again." Monica took the cup, hands trembling slightly. She had never felt so small and so powerful at the same time, realizing that her compassion had ripple effects far beyond what she could comprehend. Tia, wide-eyed, looked around at the massive figures. "Mama, they're all here because of us," she whispered. Monica hugged her tight. "Yes, baby. Because of us, and because of what we did together. Kindness isn't small. It grows." The bikers began to organize quietly. Some started unloading extra blankets and supplies, offering them to the neighbors who had peeked curiously from their windows, creating a sense of community that Monica had never seen in her small town. Troy, another of the Hell's Angels, approached Monica, his expression serious but kind. "Monica, we've been through a lot. Seen streets colder than this, nights darker than this. But last night, you reminded us of something important, that even small acts of care can matter more than anything else. We ride together, we live together, and we protect those who step up for good." Monica felt a lump rise in her throat. She had acted on instinct, guided by compassion, and now she stood at the center of a brotherhood that she had never imagined she could touch. The bikers' engines rumbled softly in unison, a hum that felt like respect, reverence, and acknowledgement all at once. Hours passed, yet no one left. The sheer presence of 1,500 men, once intimidating, now felt like a protective shield wrapped around her small home. Monica realized that last night, she hadn't just helped a group of stranded bikers survive a storm. She had become part of a living, breathing testament to loyalty, courage, and human connection. And in that moment, Tia reached up and whispered, "Mama, they're like superheroes." Monica smiled, holding her daughter close, knowing that what they were witnessing wasn't fantasy. It was real. And it had been born from a single act of kindness in a small, cold house on the edge of a frozen street. By mid-morning, the small street had transformed entirely. Neighbors peeked from curtains, some cautiously, others with open curiosity, as the rumble of thousands of motorcycles filled the air. Monica's modest home, usually quiet and unassuming, had become a beacon, a symbol of courage, compassion, and unexpected influence. The bikers weren't just standing there, they were organized, disciplined, and aware of the impression they were making. Their presence demanded respect, but not through fear. It demanded acknowledgement of what Monica had done. Rico and Jax coordinated quietly, ensuring the bikers stayed orderly, keeping a respectful distance from the houses that bordered the street. The men handed out blankets and cups of coffee to anyone willing to step outside, transforming the moment into an impromptu gesture of goodwill. What began as gratitude toward Monica had spilled over into the neighborhood. Strangers who had watched her struggle to feed and shelter 25 men the night before now saw the impact of her simple act of kindness multiplied across the community. Tia ran outside, her small boots crunching in the snow, and waved at the bikers with unabashed excitement. "Look, Mama. Look how many are here." Monica smiled, watching her daughter's eyes widen with awe. She felt pride, but also an almost surreal sense of disbelief. How could her tiny act of humanity bring together so much strength, loyalty, and honor in one place? The bikers moved with a rhythm that was almost ceremonial. Some stood guard near the street, their eyes scanning the horizon for any hint of trouble. Others gathered near the porch, quietly helping Monica with tasks she hadn't even imagined asking for help with, moving firewood, clearing snow from the walkway, and even carrying extra blankets into her home. There was no boastfulness, no unnecessary chatter. Just action, respect, and quiet acknowledgement of the woman who had chosen to open her doors to strangers in need. A few neighbors dared to approach, hesitant but curious. One elderly man asked, Are they all really bikers?" Rico turned, his scarred face softened by a rare smile. "Yes," he said simply. "But today, we're just here to honor someone who reminded us of what really matters. Protection, loyalty, and human decency." The man nodded, swallowing hard, clearly moved by the scale of what he was witnessing. Monica's heart swelled as she looked around at the scene, the snow-dusted motorcycles stretching down the street, bikers standing together like sentinels, Tia's eyes bright with wonder, and neighbors beginning to understand the power of compassion. It wasn't about fear, intimidation, or notoriety. It was about a single woman standing up, offering warmth and care, and igniting a chain reaction that no one had expected. By the time the sun rose fully, painting the street with gold and shadow, Monica realized she was witnessing more than gratitude. She was witnessing a living lesson. Courage and kindness don't just affect those you help. They ripple outward, changing perceptions, inspiring respect, and even creating an unspoken sense of community that money or power could never buy. As the day wore on, the bikers remained steadfast. Engines idled quietly, the occasional roar punctuating conversations among themselves, but their focus never wavered from Monica and her household. She had prepared a simple breakfast for Tia and herself, but soon, cups of coffee and pastries were being passed around for the bikers as well. Despite their fearsome appearance, they ate politely, quietly, and with gratitude in their eyes. There was a rhythm to the morning, a harmony between strangers who had become, if only for a day, a family bound by respect and loyalty. Rico approached Monica again, his voice calm but firm. "You've got something most people don't," he said. "Courage, heart, and a willingness to do what's right even when it's inconvenient. That's why every single one of us showed up today. You've earned our loyalty, and that doesn't come easy." Monica blinked, overwhelmed by the weight of his words. Loyalty wasn't something she had asked for. She had acted out of instinct, out of compassion, not thinking of recognition or reward. Yet here it was, on full display, undeniable and humbling. Jax, always quieter, stood nearby and added, "It's rare to find someone who steps up for strangers without expectation. That's why we ride together, why we protect each other, and why we protect people like you. It's not just about sheltering us from the cold, it's about knowing that the world can still be changed by simple acts of bravery." Tia tugged at Monica's sleeve. "Mama, can they really stay?" Monica shook her head gently, smiling down at her daughter. "No, baby. They have their own lives, their own roads to ride. But what they're showing us is bigger than that. They're showing us that when you do good, the right people will show up. And they'll stand by you." Throughout the morning, bikers who had been strangers the night before shared stories with each other, laughing quietly and recounting the perilous journey that had led them to Monica's doorstep. There was camaraderie in every glance, a silent acknowledgement that kindness had united them in ways they hadn't anticipated. Monica watched, realizing that her small act of generosity had created a network of trust and respect, a living testament to the human capacity for gratitude and loyalty. By mid-afternoon, the street had become almost ceremonial. Some bikers stood guard along the edge of the block, their presence a protective shield for Monica and her daughter. Others tended to practical tasks, shoveling snow, stacking firewood, or helping to clear the driveway. Every action reinforced the lesson that loyalty isn't just spoken, it's lived through deeds, through unwavering commitment, and through protecting those who have earned it. Monica could hardly believe it. One night of offering shelter had cascaded into a demonstration of loyalty and respect unlike anything she had imagined. She realized, with a mixture of awe and humility, that true honor often arrives in the quietest, simplest forms. A shared cup of coffee, a warm blanket, a ride through a blizzard, or standing shoulder to shoulder when it matters most. As afternoon bled into evening, the sunlight reflected off thousands of chrome-plated motorcycles, casting dazzling flashes across the snow-covered street. The bikers' presence had transformed Monica's neighborhood into a living emblem of solidarity and respect. Though they were strangers to most of the town, the way they moved, the way they coordinated, and the quiet strength they radiated left no doubt about their purpose. This was no chaotic gathering, it was a promise. A promise that those who acted with courage and kindness would never stand alone. Rico, Jax, and Troy lingered near Monica's porch, keeping an observant eye on the scene. Each biker's actions, small but deliberate, reinforced the message of protection. Some handed out blankets to neighbors who had ventured outside, sharing warmth and gratitude, while others ensured that no car or passerby could disrupt the extraordinary gathering. Monica watched all of it, her heart swelling with a mixture of disbelief and awe. The magnitude of what she had done, opening her home to 25 frozen bikers, had triggered a ripple that reached far beyond what she had imagined. Tia, standing beside her mother, kept pointing at the motorcycles. "Mama, look. Look how many are here." Monica smiled down at her daughter. "I know, baby. It's incredible. But this is what happens when you do the right thing, even when it's hard. People notice. People remember. And sometimes, people come together to show it." Rico approached Monica, his eyes meeting hers with a rare intensity. We ride a lot of roads. We've seen a lot of nights, a lot of storms. And sometimes, in all that chaos, we forget what we're protecting. Last night, you reminded us. You reminded us that people like you, people with courage and heart, are worth everything. And that's why we're here, why all of us came. The bikers around them had begun to form small circles, quietly talking, laughing, and sharing camaraderie, but never straying far from Monica's house. There was a sense of ritual, of honor in their actions. This wasn't just gratitude, it was a vow, displayed in chrome and leather, that they would protect, support, and respect someone who had chosen to do good without hesitation. Monica finally understood the scale of what had occurred. She had not only sheltered 25 men from the cold, she had ignited a movement of loyalty, courage, and moral strength, witnessed by an entire town. And as the sun began to dip lower, casting long shadows over the snow, she realized that this day, this once-in-a-lifetime convergence, would stay with her and Tia forever. It was a reminder that acts of kindness could echo far beyond a single moment, transforming lives, inspiring loyalty, and creating bonds that no distance or circumstance could sever. As the bikers prepared to leave, engines revving softly, Rico stepped forward one last time. "Monica Harris," he said, voice low but clear, "we may ride 1,000 roads tomorrow, but know this, our loyalty, our respect, and our gratitude ride with you now. And anyone who threatens your peace will find 1,000 of us standing behind you." Monica felt tears prick her eyes, overwhelmed by the enormity of what she had witnessed. It wasn't just the bikes or the men or the noise, it was the weight of their promise. And in that moment, she knew she and Tia were forever changed. By nightfall, the street had quieted, but the impact of the day lingered in the crisp winter air. Monica and Tia sat together by the window, watching as the last of the motorcycles disappeared into the distance. The snow reflected the fading glow of streetlights, and for the first time in weeks, the house felt still, safe, and warm, not just from the fire, but from the knowledge that courage and compassion could inspire extraordinary loyalty. Monica realized that her single act of kindness had done more than provide warmth for 25 freezing bikers. It had sparked a display of unity, respect, and brotherhood that reached across an entire community. The Hells Angels, known for their fearsome reputation, had come together not to intimidate or demand, but to honor her selflessness, proving that strength and humanity could coexist in the most unexpected forms. Tia leaned against her mother, whispering, "Mama, they really were like superheroes." Monica hugged her daughter tightly, smiling through her tears. "Yes, baby. But the real heroes aren't always the ones you see coming to save the day. Sometimes, the heroes are the ones who open their doors and hearts when it matters most." The next morning, life began to settle back into a gentle rhythm. Neighbors spoke of the bikers in hushed, reverent tones, recounting stories of respect, loyalty, and gratitude. Monica and Tia carried a newfound sense of confidence and security, knowing that acts of courage and kindness, no matter how small, had the power to ripple outward in ways that could never be measured. Rico, Jax, and Troy would ride again, thousands of miles away, but their promise remained. Monica understood that the Hells Angels' presence wasn't just a spectacle, it was a living testament to the moral strength of people who choose to protect, honor, and stand by those who do good, even when no one is watching. True courage is not measured by size or strength, but by the willingness to act with kindness when it matters most. Loyalty and respect are earned through deeds, not words, and a single act of compassion can ripple outward in ways that change lives. Protecting the vulnerable, standing for what is right, and offering help without expectation are the marks of true moral strength. Even in the harshest storms, humanity shines brightest through courage, honor, and heart. And sometimes, the most extraordinary heroes are ordinary people who choose to care.